Hello and welcome. It's another week. We've got a blue sky. I've got a happy face on. I'm Angela Cripps, the MD of the Recruiting Gym, and it's Imposter Syndrome week. This is Rebecca Shannon, our leadership and life coach in the Recruiting Gym. Good morning, Rebecca. How are you?
Morning, Angela. Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Really good. And a great week ahead of us with imposter syndrome. It's such a big topic and so important, and something that I work on with all my clients. So really looking forward to the discussion today and all week with all the experts you've got coming in.
Yes. So we're live every day this week, everyone. So do join us at 9 a.m. for a new guest. We'll be talking about imposter syndrome. So you said there that you do this with all of your coaches. For those of you that don't know Rebecca, because we've had quite a few new people and you haven't been on for a little while. Oh, you did with Alan, didn't you, with the TED Talk? But
Yes.
that wasn't about you. So tell us about you. What is it that you do with your clients?
So I am a coach who works with, people always ask, what is it you do? Who do you work with? And I've really resisted that. So I tend to go with the fact that I work with human beings, okay, in whatever guise that might be. My background is in recruitment. So I've been in recruitment for 25 years. It was actually my 25th anniversary last week. I joined Hayes back in 1996 on the 18th of November. So I celebrated 25 years in recruitment last week. But I found coaching was something I'd always done throughout my career, and in the latter few years turned that into what I do for my role, which took a bit of getting over my own imposter syndrome, actually. So we can talk a little bit about that. But I work with recruiters, I work with recruitment leaders, I work with recruitment owners and some other human beings that do other things as well, which is very exciting. But I work with them holistically. So it might be that we start talking about their career or their business, but actually my belief is that to really get to get the best out of who we are and what we do and what we bring, it needs to be a holistic approach. So we then look at other things that are going on in their life. We'll look at things like imposter syndrome. We'll look at things like limiting beliefs, and really work with anything that's getting in their way, that's stopping them living their best life, living the life that they want to live. So it can take many different guises.
Fantastic. Now, people might be thinking, well, if these are people that are directors and owners of companies and that, surely they don't have imposter syndrome because they've already made it.
Well, there's the rub. Right, there is the rub. Some of when you look at the actual definition of imposter syndrome, and it was coined, I can't remember the guy's name now. Someone will know, but they coined it back in 1978. Right, so the first thing to notice is it's been around for a long time. Right, so we've been dealing with this for a long time, and the definition is talented people who don't recognise and accept their own success. Talented people, right? So when you say it like that, you're like, oh my God, there are hundreds of millions of very talented people out there that we aspire and are inspired by, that we just think, just get it done, right? They don't have any imposter syndrome. They just go out there and they do it. The truth is we can't see what goes on inside. So as you say, there are a lot of these people that I'm working with may on the outside seem like they've got amazing success, that they've done it all, that they are talented, which they are. But they don't feel that way. And there's this internal struggle and this internal pain that's going on for people that other people don't necessarily see. And I think you've got a great example of this, someone that we would see as up there.
Yeah. I was literally just listening to the news while we were setting up and everything, and heard the words imposter syndrome on the news, and I thought, oh, that's rather valid. But this was Adele talking on her show last night when people asked her, what is it that you're most proud of? What have you been really proud of? And she said, actually, headlining Glastonbury, because I had such imposter syndrome that I really didn't think that I could do it. And she didn't go down with her posse or whatever. She drove herself because she still wasn't sure she was going to go. And the fact that she did it, she said, I can't remember hardly anything about it because obviously she was in there. And I do remember seeing interviews with her beforehand about her nerves, and I thought it was more stage fright, and that was always there, but it wasn't. It was imposter syndrome. The fact that why would people want to come and watch me? Why would they listen to me? You just think, well, he's probably the biggest artist in the world. And yet she's got imposter syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many examples of that, and which is really, really, sad. As I was putting my notes together for today, it actually makes me really sad that so many of us, including those people who are doing those amazing things, have this internal battle with themselves about how they get there. And of course, a lot of people do show up and are out there doing their thing. Adele is up there. She did do Glastonbury. She, did the show last night. She's done so many amazing things. So she gets past it. But we don't know the millions of people who don't. We don't know the millions of people who we don't see on stage, or who we don't see being the biggest success that they want to be in their lives, because it trips them up, right? And that's the thing that I think makes it really sad. The other thing, when I was looking at the research and looking at when it was formed, when it was the phrase was coined, for me it was 1978. So at the time, when 1978, I was 5. Okay, and I believe that. And this is kind of my truth, that it was around that age that I realized I wasn't enough, or I thought I wasn't enough. Okay. And that is one of the things of imposter syndrome. When people talk about imposter syndrome, they talk about not being good enough, not being enough, not knowing enough to be there. And those feelings, and the reason I reference that is because that's the same for a lot of us. A lot of
Rebecca.
But it's young. So most of our beliefs are formed before the age of 7, right?
Yeah.
And they can become our truth. And this is what can happen with imposter syndrome, is that those beliefs that we've been practicing for so long, that we bring into every new experience that we have, become our truth. So they become comfortable because we know them, we're familiar with them. So we stay with them, because the opposite of that, which is actually the truth, which is I'm more than enough. We all are, right? And we're all inherently talented in our own unique way. That becomes uncomfortable. That's the uncomfortable truth. And that's where people like Adele, that battle she talked about, that driving herself to Glastonbury, was her breaking through the imposter syndrome. And I wrote a line, I'll share it now. It's actually later on in my notes, but I think it's relevant to bring in now, because what Adele did in that moment, and this is why I think imposter syndrome can be helpful if we look at it a different way, is she invited it in. She said, okay, all right, you're telling me that I'm scared. You're telling me that I'm doing Glastonbury, which is incredible. And why would Adele do Glastonbury? You're telling me that this is a new, scary experience, that there are going to be millions of people watching me, right? All of those things are helpful, actually. Like you said, in that sort of way of turning stage fright into stage presence, okay? But what she did was she welcomed them in. And this is what I'd written down, is if you can welcome your imposter syndrome in and go, okay, all right, thank you for sharing that with me. Yes, it's scary going on stage at Glastonbury. Of course it's going to scare me. And then very politely telling imposter syndrome, and I'm not going to swear on recruiting Jim, to do one, right? To write off, okay? And that's when we see these talented people doing what they do. So I think often we can see imposter syndrome as something we need to ignore and get rid of altogether and not have. The truth is that's not going to happen. It will be there. We're always going to have that. But what we need to do is not let it trip us up. Okay.
Yeah, I've just put a poll in there, actually. Let's just see the people that are on here. If you want to share, have you ever suffer from imposter syndrome? Do you feel like that you've been in that situation? Oh, they're already voting, actually, without me asking. I can't vote on it, but I would if I could.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that the other thing, I mean, one of the things that I often do with my clients is, and I have a program around this, is calling Just Be Me with superpowers. Just be me with superpowers, right? The very gifts that are our inherent superpowers come to us easily. So they're the ones that often imposter syndrome can have the most fun with, because it makes us think that there must be something we need to do more of to be able to show up and do that. So Adele, and this isn't to say you don't practice, you don't learn your songs, you don't, do stage shows, etc., to get fine-tuned. But often it's the thing that we are naturally brilliant at, that the imposter syndrome comes along and says, well, you can't be, or it'd be hard, or it'd be difficult, or you need to do more. So then what happens is we end up, we go and do it, but we over practice, we overthink it, we get over anxious about it.
That makes sense, actually. Yes, because it comes easily, you therefore think that, well, that can't be that good. Otherwise, it would have been hard. Yeah, totally makes sense there. While I'm here, Charlotte, I know you're there. If you could put Rebecca's LinkedIn connection in here as well, because there'll be people that will want to connect with you and carry on this discussion as well.
Yeah. And one of the people I just wanted to reference today is a lovely lady called Margaret Collins, who, Charlotte, you also have the link for that if you can pop it in there. And I worked with Margaret as a coach with one of many when I was doing my Lead the Change program, which was a year-long leadership program. And she is a specialist in imposter syndrome. We couldn't get her in for this week. We will do in future on the Recruiting Gym. She's got a great book out. You can connect with her on LinkedIn, because she really works specifically with people around imposter syndrome, and does some great courses. And we must get her to have a chat with you, Angela. Get her in. But she points to, and I've referenced a particular article that she had, which gives you some steps to go through in terms of how to deal with imposter syndrome. And I've kind of added my own little superpower twist to it. So I wanted to just leave people today with these things to have a think about. So the 5 things, she names them differently, but this is how I've done it, is you need to choose to change. As I say, when you do feel imposter syndrome, we can feel, it feels very comfortable. We can just stay there. So I know it sounds really easy, but the first thing you need to do is go, I'm not having it anymore. I'm going to change. Making that choice. Okay. Acknowledge that you're too hard on yourself. Again, that's what I spend a lot of time talking to my clients about, is when do we decide to be so hard on ourselves, right? If we had a friend, we'd be kind and caring and compassionate. We'd have a cup of tea and we'd talk about it, and we'd point to all their amazing talents and all their amazing superpowers. So let's start doing that for ourselves. See, and this comes back to the Adele thing, see that what you're comparing, that you're going on the inside of you, you're comparing it to others' outsides. We see Adele, unless she shares, of course, which is what's so powerful about her story. But otherwise, we just see her standing on the stage at Glastonbury. And therefore, we're comparing that internal struggle we have with what we see. And this is so prevalent, of course, with social media now. We see the finished article. We don't see the inside struggle that those people are going through to get there. So we're not comparing like with like. Of course, more and more people are sharing now, which is great. So we can start to see the inside story. Another one of my favorite books, Feck Perfection. James Buck Victoria. Any of you know me, he's a bit of a hero of mine. But his book was all about, we all try and be perfectionists, right? So F it. Right? We don't have to be perfect. Okay. Just show up fully as ourselves, doing the very best we can at the time. And it's always enough, always enough. And then the last one is, and Margaret goes into this in more detail, is don't be so vulnerable to criticism, right? We are going to get criticized. We are, whatever, even the top athletes, even Adele, some people think Adele isn't a great singer, right? It doesn't matter what we do. They're all mad, by the way, but it doesn't matter what we do. Someone will find something to criticize about us. And we do with others. So just, be a little bit less vulnerable to when we do put ourselves out there, and don't let our imposter syndrome go, see, I told you so. I told you I don't like it. Because someone always won't. Someone will always think what we do isn't that great, right? So be a little bit less vulnerable. Margaret goes all into those 5 steps in the article that Charlotte has kindly shared for me. But my final one is just be you, right? Show up, be you, be fully, truly you, because you are the gift. Whatever your superpowers are, you are the gift. And that then you can just put imposter syndrome to one side.
I did share something on Friday on Twitter because I saw it and I just thought, okay, people saw her a different way, but actually this is how she felt. And it's, I believe in myself, even my most delicate, intangible feelings. And that's Marilyn Monroe. We saw her as broken and delicate and all the rest of it, but actually the things that she achieved and what I hear afterwards, the meetings that she had and what she got for herself and the rest of it, she was a tough cookie. Obviously the film star was portrayed as that, but she wasn't. So I loved finding that quote. I believe in myself, even my most intangible, delicate feelings.
Have I got time for one more, talking about quotes? So this is a favorite of mine, that whenever I'm talking to clients about this imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, this is a quote that I share. A lot of people may recognize this, and it's often attributed to Nelson Mandela, who never actually said it, but so people might be familiar with it. It's actually Marianne Williamson from a book called Miracles in Love, which is a beautiful book as well. And I think this speaks to what we've talked about here in terms of imposter syndrome. So Charlotte, I think, will share the link, but I'll just read it out. So our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask if I can say it, we ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking, so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. It's a beautiful, beautiful quote. And it just speaks to what we've said there is when we allow ourselves to believe in our own brightness, our own greatness, and then we go out in the world and we share it. We don't let that imposter keep us small. It gives other people permission. Adele will have given so many other people permission when she was on the show last night to go and do what they love to do without that fear.
Well, what was lovely, they bought her teacher from when she was sort of 10 or 11. She was only with her a year, but they asked her who sort of inspired you, and she didn't know she was going to be there. And they brought this teacher out, and her face just crumbled and just went from there. And that was the clip that I saw, because it was her that allowed her to shine and to realise where her superpower was. It was English. It was the lyrics that she now writes, and obviously the voice goes with that. But yeah, by actually doing that, and I luckily live opposite a school, and I hear those children. So that bit in the poem there, or the quote around the children shining, we were given that already. Yeah, they come out and they're laughing and screaming and running around, and they're just joyous, like at 11:30 every day. And therefore, yeah, where does that go? Why don't we keep that all the way through? So let's try and do that this week, everyone. Keep our joyousness. The poll, if you haven't clicked on that, do click on that. It was 100% last time I looked. We'd only had a few votes on it though, so click on the poll. Let us know whether you feel like you've had imposter syndrome. Tomorrow we've got Catherine Jennick. On Wednesday we've got who's on Wednesday? Kate O'Neill. That does our disc profiling. Susan Watson on Friday, and Susan Watson on Thursday, Teresa Harrington on Friday. So loads of people talking about this week. Interesting that they're all women, or is it?
Well, yeah, it's one, the recruiting gym, we like our women, but it is more common with women, or more commonly known with women. Although I have to say, I think that is changing. I think as there are more and more men sharing that they actually feel this too. So yeah, it'd be great to see if we've got some men in the audience who might want to comment on how this shows up for them as well. Yes,
definitely. And do send the link to people, because they can get the quarters. Everyone can get at the quarters. It then gets password protected when we get to the end of the year. So if you know someone that suffers from this, and you know they're brilliant and yet they can't see it themselves, please do send them the link. We'd like to get this out to everyone, and because we've got all the guests, it will go in the DW Lite, so actually everyone will get access to it in the future as well. Thank you so much for kicking that off. Wonderful. Do love having you on here, Rebecca. So look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thanks everyone.
Bye.